Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the globe, listening and watching us at this inaugural event of the Experiential Leadership Series in Africa. It's a forum where we want to explore and also engage former leaders and the current leaders on how to improve governance and security in Africa. And we're so honored, and I would rather say again, so privileged to have as the inaugural guest the former president of the Republic of Mozambique, who is also the chairperson of the Forum of Former African Presidents and Heads of Government, in the person of His Excellency, President Joaquim Alberto Chissano. He would be speaking shortly on several issues around security, around leadership, around governance in Africa. We want to be able to get into the minds of people that has experienced leadership, so that from their experience, we are able to provide better policy making, advice, policy formulation for the current leaders, for researchers, and for academics, which would also improve knowledge and practice within the academia. This event is in collaboration with the Joaquim Chissano Foundation, as well as the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs. At some point, the DG of the Institute would be speaking as well. So we dive straight into this online, I would rather say virtual interaction. It was because of COVID that we had to come virtual. Otherwise, we would have you with an audience that would speak and engage with you directly, Your Excellency. So it's a privilege and honor to welcome you to this occasion, or to this event, as the inaugural guest, Your Excellency, President Joaquim Chissano. Thank you, sir. I'm going to be asking several questions to understand the dynamics of governance, security, leadership in Africa, and how we can improve on those areas, and what the future holds for Africa, what the future holds for the youth in Africa, which is very critical in terms of what is happening, the prevailing situations in several countries, in terms of insecurity, conflicts, among several things. And you keep hearing the recurring decimal of lack of political will. But we are aware that you left an enduring legacy in Mozambique, and you are an African icon. So let's start with the forum which you chair, the chairperson of the Forum of Former Leaders in Africa. What has been the role and the major impact of that forum, Your Excellency?
First of all, let me greet all those who are watching us or listening to us in Mozambique. Now it's good afternoon. Now, the forum, as the name says, is just a forum. It's not an organization. It's a forum where former heads of state of Africa meet, or if they don't meet physically, they exchange ideas using the means of communication. And they discuss about several aspects of the life in Africa. But let me tell you how the forum came about. The forum came about because we saw that a number of heads of state were leaving office, and they were still strong. And so we thought that it would be good if they get together and exchange ideas on what they know about the governance, and to then exchange ideas about how we see the events of today, and offer ourselves to be of a value to the sitting heads of state. So with the acceptance of the then sitting heads of state, we created this forum. And it started by trying to be a little bit selective. Wanted to only put in this discussion, in this forum, people who went to power through democratic means and came out also through democratic means. But this is not a very easy thing to define and to without being unjust for some and so on. So we are not very much strict in that. And but the thing is that those who had come to the discussion, actually, they bring a value to what we want to achieve, which is to support the sitting heads of state. So far, we have been sending out communiques, declarations, which we noticed that they had some impact, not only on the leadership in Africa, but some other countries outside Africa do follow what we say. So we feel that the forum is being taken seriously. And I may add that some of us are also members of the Club of Madrid. You know that Club of Madrid was very much selective in such a way that they had very few Africans, or almost none. And I was one of the first to be there, and then others came, and that is a very much selective. But now there's a lot of our members of the forum who are members of Club of Madrid. So this shows the relevance. I can give you examples of what.
So before you go into the examples, and for us to understand the impact, the real impact of that forum, we're going to be having the Director General of the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs just say one or two things. And I mean, we're so honored to have him as to have the organization. A fantastic organization in Nigeria that is leading in terms of foreign policy formulation, among other things, in Africa. So he's going to be speaking to us. It will be a pleasure to have Professor Eghosa Osaghae, the Director General of the Institute, the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs, to speak to us at this inaugural event. We already have His Excellency President Joaquim Chissano here. DG, you can take it up from there, sir.
We don't hear you.
We can't hear you, Prof.
Unmute.
Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, great, Prof.
You can hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead,
yes,
sir.
Your Excellency, President Chissano, it's a big pleasure to share this stage with you and to congratulate you for being one of the pioneers on this platform. The Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, which I direct, is very pleased to be with you as a comrade in the African Renaissance that Adewumi has so clearly and cleverly put together. We see this outing and many others that will follow as what Africa needs to pep up and to be fully charged for the next stage of our crisis. The crisis that Africa presently faces is one that leaders like you who have been there have the background, the experience, and the insights to guide us in. And so, Your Excellency, let me welcome you and thank you for agreeing to be part of this whole process. I'm sure that the whole of Africa will be grateful to you. Certainly at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, we are very excited that this platform is going to open up many more spaces and voices for Africa to take its rightful place. Good afternoon, Your Excellency. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Eghosa, Osaghae, the Director General of the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs. We're so proud to have you as a collaborator on this auspicious event. So we will be engaging with you further later. So while we proceed with the interaction with His Excellency.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, Your Excellency, from what you just said, you said, I mean, the forum is more or less an informal forum, and it's had its impact in one way or the other, and it opened up a space for even former leaders in Africa to be part of the Club of Madrid. But then I want to take you back to a statement you made in 2004 at a forum with in the United States, where you have the students and academics present. You made a presentation. You made a statement there. You said, no longer can African state hide behind its sovereignty in order to oppress its own people. That you mentioned at that forum. And that Africa is winning its battle against violent conflicts. Considering now, unquote, considering now the protracted internal conflicts in Africa that has regional and international dimensions, do you still hold the same view that you mentioned then in 2004?
Yes. In fact, we were winning over the violent conflicts, and they have reduced. I may still say so, although we have a number which is not desirable. I wish that if I said so in 2004, today we should say that there's no violent conflict. Absolutely. At least the conflict of people to people in the same country and country against other country. This should be out. But you see, things happen in a situation of different environments. Now there are new developments. The economy is being viewed in different ways. Search of materials or commodities, which may change the relationship between countries, particularly if there's no consultation, which is being now rehearsed in the African Union for more cohesion, for more integration. If that exists, then you will have no conflict of trying to get a raw material which you see in your neighbor's country, because we want to integrate. And so, and this is the sense of the African Union, to come towards unity, not only political, but economic. And so I think that we are moving towards. That's why I maintain that we are winning, because each step has to be taken as a success. So I think with a bit more of effort, we will do away with the present conflicts.
Okay. I mean, let me
except
okay.
Where I have the doubt is how to work so that the conflicts coming from outside are also stopped. I'm referring to terrorism.
Good.
How to stop this?
I'm happy that you latched onto terrorism now, which is very good. It's one of the bane of the continent as we speak. The recent Global Terrorism Index says the first 20 countries in the list has 7 African countries, with Nigeria occupying the 3rd position after Afghanistan and Iraq, while Mozambique occupies the 15th position in the world, before Libya. Libya is the 16th. How does political will by leaders in Africa stem this trend of terrorism? In some quarters, it is believed that it is homegrown. In some other quarters, it is believed that it's imported. So how can political will play a critical role here? Because you see the push and pull factor.
Well, terrorism in Africa is I don't use the word imported, as you said, because we are not importing, but someone is exporting into our countries. That is terrorism.
Very good.
And we have to work together in order to counter this. But terrorism doesn't work in a vacuum. Works in a given country, and so before they act, they study the situation in that country, and they have the weak points which we have. So we have to solve these weak points, and we have to work with our people so that the people are alert and they have a motivation, because we are building our countries, we're having progress. People must feel that this is their success. That's why in Mozambique we were surprised with this phenomenon of terrorism. At the beginning, people did not know what to do, but today we can see that there's a mounting movement of solidarity, and so everybody abhor terrorism. They understand that this is nothing, it's bringing nothing good for our people. So you have the youth which are recruited, mainly among the less literate, among the poorest, and because it's very difficult, very easy to say something which pleases a poor person, and you give him some sense, some peanuts, some 1 shilling or one naira or what. For him, it becomes something. And then you tell him that if he joins you, he will have a better life, or he'll go for studies and so on. But when he joins you, you give him a rifle, and you tell him to shoot and kill someone. And then it's a strategy which is very, very bad for the people.
I mean, I'm happy that you touched on that. I was going to ask you that later. But then, is it safe or good to negotiate with terrorists?
Well,
I asked that, sir. I mean, so that you, I mean, I want to add this too, so that you can just speak to that. Within the context of what is happening in northern Mozambique, as we speak, and the resource cost that happened in Nigeria is happening in Nigeria. It's more or less the same, context. It's about resources. What is the best strategy of handling such a situation?
No, I would leave that example of Cabo Delgado and come to the example of when we fought against South Africa, apartheid. Apartheid was classified and is still classified as the crime against humanity. And we had to, at some point, to sit down with the apartheid regime and discuss. It was a given point where we found that there were chances the dialogue could commence. And it did commence until the collapse of apartheid. So one has to see at which point one can contact terrorists for a dialogue. First, you have to know them. In the case of Mozambique, we don't not yet know them. Who are they? Who are behind them? What are their motivations? We know the motivations are small, as I said, small groups. Small people who are motivated because they want to eat more, better, and it's an illusion that they are going to eat a bit more, or they are going to go to school also, but they don't go. But those who are behind, the big ones, what are their motivations? For instance, you got to Cabo Delgado, what do they want? They wanted to establish what Islamic State for what? And then they want to participate in the exploration and exploitation of gas, or it's for minerals or precious stones, or it's just they want to open a way for trafficking, drug trafficking, or arms trafficking, or persons trafficking. Maybe they want to open this up. We have to find what their causes are, what are their causes, and then you plan a strategy and you follow until a point where you feel that it's time to.
So in essence, your
engage.
It's not out of place to engage and negotiate with terrorists.
That's my thesis, is any conflict, any whatsoever, should not ignore the possibility of dialogue.
Great. I mean, that takes me now to your personal experience. You coordinated the liberation insurgency for 11 years and subsequently became the prime minister and the president of the Republic of Mozambique. And interestingly, you were confronted again. I mean, at the helm of affairs, while you were the president, you were confronted for 16 years with an insurgency, and which makes it more interesting, by someone that was formerly a part of your party, Frelimo,
No,
right?
no, it's not right.
But records have it that he was part of.
That's not right. That's not right. I will clarify and
Okay,
correct the mistake
now,
that some people have.
some people have made. All right. So, irrespective of whether he was part of Frelimo or not, now, that insurgency, devastating war, took, I mean, it protracted for like 16 years. At the initial stage, for those years, 15 years down the line, you were focused on force. You were determined that we need to crush these people.
That's also not right.
Good. You were determined that we need to crush these people. Yeah. Then, at some point, you changed tactics. Yeah. And you said, okay, dialogue and negotiation was just going. What changed, sir, at that point? What changed? Yeah.
Let me put what your premise is correct. Good. So your question cannot be that one because the premises are different from what you are saying. Okay. First of all, it was not me who coordinated the liberation struggle.
You were actively involved.
I was only involved. Actively involved.
From the bush.
I was in the leadership, but we had a two strategists, President Edward Munyani to start with, was a man of dialogue, even with the Portuguese. The Portuguese have let him down. That's why we had to take up arms to fight. And we always said, the day the Portuguese would say, let us talk about independence in Mozambique, we will sit down and talk. So we don't concentrate on force. That's why we, the freedom fighters, we called ourselves political military cadres, not military or political.
Well, interestingly, Your Excellency, you had a rank of a major general while you were in the bush. Many people did not know that.
Yeah. So we had this, and that's why we were working with the Portuguese political forces and the people in general, mobilizing, which led the Portuguese army to say enough is enough, and they started refusing to fight us, and so they staged a coup d'etat in Portugal. This was due to our posture. And then once after the coup d'etat, they said, let us sit down and talk, and we accepted. Now, after independence, or just before the proclamation of independence, you know that they were frontline states, and we were part of the states which were involved in searching for peaceful solutions for the problems of Zimbabwe and South Africa and Namibia. So again, you see, we not concentrating in force, in violence or so. When it came to the apartheid-backed movement or created movement, we fought during the first years before elapsing the 16 years. But this is my predecessor, President Samora, who came to the conclusion that it was time to engage the apartheid regime, who was the main enemy. It was not the people whom they were using, but
it was the regime. The regime that was the main.
And so there was an agreement, the Nkomati Accord, many people did not understand the strategy, but it is something which worked very well.
The Akumati Accord, initially you weren't part of it.
We were.
No, you as a person, you
Yes.
were not. Yes.
I was part of it, but we were when our government.
At the government, but you as a person, you were reluctant to get involved.
No. Wait.
Good.
Our government had taken the decision, we are going to engage apartheid. And Americans were contacted and so on, so on. But we said the Minister of Foreign Affairs should not appear because we don't want to give the impression that we are establishing political diplomatic relations with apartheid.
Okay.
So that's why the Minister of Foreign Affairs was put aside, but I was following everything.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
Now it's clear.
Yeah.
You were the foreign minister then.
yes. Yeah. And so foreign minister would, but this was to tell you that we have had always in mind that what we want is peace after all. This liberation struggle was a struggle for peace also, for democracy and for peace. So when President Machel died and I came in, my program was, first of all, point number one, to try and find ways of stopping war. And so first it was necessary to determine the nature of our adversary or our enemy. At that time, we considered the enemy because they were created, financed, trained, armed by apartheid. And even the operations were led by the party. They trained the commanders, and at some point they said, now you can command. But at the beginning, since before the independence of Zimbabwe, the Rhodesians came and attacked our ports, bridges and whatnot. And then they joined hands with South Africans and so on and so on. The story has to be detailed to be well understood. But so I had to determine the nature of this part of Mozambicans who were utilized. I traveled to many countries where there were Mozambicans, students, invite them to come home so that we work for peace and unity and so on. And until I engaged the churches formed a group which went also to America, to Kenya, to meet people related with our adversaries, so that we know them. We know them. So to have any interlocutor, we say, who is going to be engaged? And we then started negotiating. First was this by proxy, if you want, indirect negotiation, until we managed to come to direct engagement with two delegations well formed, and it took 2 years of dialogue.
It took 2 years of dialogue, but then the nature of the devastation of that war, within the period of force, for confrontation and counter-confrontation, it was recorded that, the the guerrillas sought to disrupt the nation's economy, among several other things, infrastructure. And in some account, it was also recorded that the children, I mean, it got to a point that children were crushed. The skulls of children were crushed and mutilated. I mean, the whole village ransacked. And at some point, children were boiled alive to punish parents for failing to cooperate with them. Now, it took you 2 years to get to the stage of we are moving forward as a collective. Stage of negotiation that was concluded successfully. But before those 2 years, it was force that the government needed to crush them. What triggered or what changed that? Okay, now let's go into negotiation. What changed at that point for you?
Yeah, no. The story which I was telling you, it showed that it's not a sudden change.
Okay.
It's a
process.
It's a process.
Good.
It's a process which started with my predecessor.
Absolutely, I agree.
You know that he went to Kenya and spoke with President Moore and with others. So it started there. And the story which I told you about the Committee Accord is part of it. So it's a process. It's not a sudden change. And the aim was not to crush, but the issue was to defend the people. Second, we indeed invite them to surrender, and we promise that nothing was going to happen to them. And a number of them surrendered, a good number of them surrendered, and nothing bad happened to them. And my appeal to my forces, the commanders, was go into the bush, fight as strongly as you can. But if you find, by chance, the leader of Renamo, please try to catch him alive.
Bring him alive.
Bring him alive.
Good.
Because I want to talk to him so that we finish the war.
Oh, that was your position.
That was my position. If he is killed by chance in the battle, but if you have a way of grabbing him, please don't kill him.
Bring him for a one-on-one discussion.
Discuss and finish this war. So it was a
process. I agreed. So it's safe to conclude that leaders must understand the nature of the conflict within their domain, and as well be prepared to engage.
Yes.
Not pull back or want to crush.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes, very important.
The understanding of that, the context is very important.
There's no way one can say, well, we will end the war just by war. To crush the other. I don't know, maybe the ancient wars that happened. but if this happens, that one group crushes the other, what remains is not peace. It's a multiplication of new conflicts.
What remains is not peace, but a multiplication of new conflicts.
Take Libya, take Iraq. You crush Saddam Hussein, you crush Gaddafi, but what remains?
Well, if you look at what they do from the other side, the impact on the population, the devastation.
For me to go to this direct talks with Renamo, I took at least 1 year I think it's more than 1 year, touring the country, speaking to the villagers in the districts, and to tell them that we should talk with the enemy. Because I had to do that due to the atrocities which were committed. And in fact, their reaction was, how can you dare to go and talk with these people who did this, that? And they enumerated all what you said. And in one of the districts, they showed me a river. They said, that river, we don't drink the water from there because it's a dirty of blood, because they would decapitate people and put them into that river. And they were not wearing, they had no clothes. They were wearing bark. And the children, women, and bark from the trees. And they said, I was talking to these people. Fortunately, I had taken with me foreign diplomats to that meeting. And they witnessed, and they found that it was very courageous for me to tell these people to forgive. To forgive, so that these people who are our children, who were deceived, were taken there, let them come back. They are your children. They are your fathers. They are your parents. Let them come back.
More or less speaking to reconciliation, which is very important.
And the people would say, no, never. That's why it took me more than 1 year for touring to bring more and more the sense of yes. So I didn't want to play a game like that alone, or my government alone. It's with people, with the consent of the people.
So you did that engagement in your capacity as the president.
As the president.
You taught the country as the president.
Yes.
Now, what we can draw from there is that leaders need to be more visible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they need to engage.
Yes.
Directly.
Yes.
Not through sources, other sources.
And you see, our people here, the only way, even today, it's valid what I'm saying, but at that time, they had no exposure to the world, let alone enough literacy to understand things just by radio or television, and we didn't have television to the whole country.
That's true.
So the only way of engaging the people and to make them understand it, and you
to feel their pulse,
and you also to understand them,
is
to engage.
So I'm going to be direct with this, and I want your very frank response to this, Your Excellency. If you're sitting in front of two African leaders today, two current African heads of states or presidents, and it appears that one maneuvers the constitution to extend his stay in power, irrespective of widespread opposition to the individual, and the other lacks political will to be decisive in tackling internal security challenges of his or our country, with huge implications for national and international or regional stability. If you're sitting in front of these two leaders today in your capacity, what will you tell them?
Well, I already told one of the leaders before.
Good.
When it was when I learned that they were trying to who changed the constitution. I told him I have nothing against you or the government or the parliament changing the constitution to extend the terms of a presidential seat. But I think that should be applied to the other elections where you don't participate, the elections to come, because it will change. And I was saying this because at the beginning, when I was in the presidency in Mozambique, we had right to 3 terms. Maybe because the constitution was wrongly written, because it was saying that the president is entitled to 2 candidatures. So when you put it means that you candidate first, and then you are re-candidate, and then and so this gave us returns. And so this, I said, well, I have nothing against the third term, but if the constitution says there are 2 terms, then you have to change the constitution to 3 terms, but not to apply for yourself. Yeah, but the argument was, oh yes, that since people wanted the parliament. Again, I said, well, if the parliament passes that, it's the parliament, you go democratic way. But fortunately for myself, the parliament rejected.
Rejected it.
Rejected the change. And so, and the president in case accepted the verdict of the parliament. It was good. So I think that I would say to anyone that please don't change the constitution for you, but change the constitution to be a constitution to be observed by everybody and every players.
And the argument usually from that angle is my people want me to run. My people in quotes. Yes. My people want me to stay in power. Yeah. I mean, how can the people now
that's why
discourage such practice?
That's why I'm saying that the people want you to stay, but what they have to do is to have the constitution be amended, not for you. It will be applied next time. If then they say that the former president may come back and so whatever he voted for. Once things are done democratically, then things can work. But my point is this: don't try to make a law just for you.
Okay. Now, the other aspect of the question, which I want you to respond to, a leader who is who lacks the political will in court to be decisive in terms of tackling internal challenges, internal security challenges, and which has huge implications for national and regional stability.
Now the political will is something which it's very difficult to discuss, because the tendency is from people who are outside to think that the incumbent, the ruler, doesn't care about his people.
Yes.
And this sometimes can be hurting, because one sees that he is doing all what he is doing for his people. He may be doing wrong, but really he is convinced that
he's convinced within himself, and the people around him have convinced him as such also.
So lack of political will must be discussed from those who observe with this leader to reach to that conclusion that, well, there's no political will. When there is no political will, it means that he is pursuing other interests, not the interests of the people. But you may find out that, well, he took this measure, that measure, that measure, because he wants to serve the people. So you have to find. I'm against condemning the random every
blanket
will, because he's not doing what I think is democracy. That's wrong. So he's got no political will.
You had the opportunity to stay in power beyond 2005. You had the opportunity to go another term, but you stepped down from power.
No, yes.
You stepped down
from
the president.
Yes.
I mean, you had an extra term to stay, but you decided to step down.
Yeah.
Why did you?
For several reasons. One is that when we were changing the constitution to a multi-party system, I had advanced an idea that we should have a ceiling in age for candidacy to the presidency. So I was putting it to 70 years for the first term if one comes for the first time, but then when he reached 75, we could not stand. And this, my proposal was turned down. But then I decided, first of all, that I would step down before 70. And
I mean, even with all the perks and everything that the office, I mean, at your beck and call, I mean, with all the power that you will.
Second is, maybe this was the main reason, is that I had stayed 18 years, not by my will. It's because I inherited the country in war when I succeeded President Samora Machel. And I had this task of ending with war by the means which I already explained. But then it made me 10 years. So if we had gone through this process, it would be two terms. And then I had 8 years to conclude the accord of peace.
8 years.
And then I said, what came later. So I had 10 years. I had 8 years, 8 years before. And now I start multi-party system. I win the first elections. What I had to do with this is to reconstruct the country.
And reconciliation also.
To start the process of reconciliation, because that has got no end. To start that. And to create the basis for development. And that would be my second term on this part of multi-party system. When I saw that, well, this have happened, the economy was growing at 2 digits. Inflation was coming down to 1 digit. That education was rising, poverty was lowering, and so on. So now the country can move. Now it's the best time to, and this is the reason. It's better you go out while the people appreciate what you do than to wait until they cease appreciating what you are doing to push you out. So I had to go out while people like me.
Wow, that's profound.
Yeah.
It's better to leave while the ovation is loudest, rather than wait and be pushed out when you must have lost your integrity, or I mean,
because you may go to a time where the wheels of your car are on the mud, and you do not advance, and you repeat things, and you think that, well, you know a lot, but you are repeating, and so, and while you can open for others to come and take the lead, and I thought that time had come.
So you weren't swayed or carried away by all the perks of the office. I mean, the enormous power of an African leader. You weren't swayed by all that.
Maybe because we in Mozambique didn't have the big packs. But I don't think that that would be a reason for me to stay.
Yeah.
But I had another very simple reason, is that I, as you said, I was in the liberation struggle.
Yeah.
For 12 years.
Not even 11, but 12 years.
Yeah, but taking the other years when I was a student also as a militant, it's 14 years.
14 years.
And then to come and have 1 year as prime minister, 15 years, and 11 years as foreign minister, and 18 years as president.
That's more than enough.
I said, now let me try to see how people live out there in the village.
Wow.
Let me go there, try to go some farming, look this and that, to live like an ordinary citizen.
Great. I mean, there's a question. I mean, before I go into that, we encourage the global participants to share their comments and questions on the page, the Facebook page, and we would as well engage the president with those within the time frame that we have. There's a question from Joseph Ochogu from Nigeria. It goes thus: why is political transition very difficult and problematic in Africa? Why is political transition very difficult and problematic in Africa?
Well, it's difficult to answer if we generalize the Africa.
Yes.
But I think we in Africa went through different stages of political development. When we became independent, we inherited colonial views and ways of administering countries without taking into consideration the real situations of our countries. We didn't have the cadre, political, managerial, administrative cadre.
Mm.
And so we're all learning it by best wish. Wish that these things could be like this. Some of the things seem to be easy. That's why coup d'etat after coup d'etat, coup d'etat after coup d'etat. And we became independent in a time very, very difficult in the world. That of Cold War. Don't put this out.
Agreed, Your
You
Excellency.
have the influence of this colonial mentality, and you have this fight of Cold War. And so if we took time, but we are still trying to affirm ourselves.
Okay. It took time, but we're still trying to affirm ourselves. So, I mean, is it safe to say that from 2000, from the millennium, from 2000 up till this moment, we still have the challenge of political transition, or is it going, or is it reducing between, I mean, since the end of the Cold War?
Well, this,
Because
tempted to think that this political transition has to do also something to do with the concept of democracy. How do we understand democracy? And this would, if we have a correct understanding of democracy, we will have a very swift transition, political transition, which means good governance. Good governance is also a concept which came slowly. I cannot say that we mastered it today, but people now understand more what is good governance is about. It was not so a few years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't so a few years back. Do we now say that democracy is a concept and practice that is a challenge for African states? Or do we begin to explore our own grown structures or practices that we can blend with this concept of democracy?
We have no big choice, because we cannot stop the wheel of history and start and do our own experiments. I wish we could have had this chance to have our own experiment on implanting our own type of democracy, which I call participation.
Participatory democracy.
The participation, for me, is the key for democracy. While for others, key for democracy is a multi-party, is elections. But for me, it's participation not only in political issues to define a political trend of the country, but participation in everything, economy, in planning, participation.
So I mean, when you use the word participation now, is it a word or a phrase or an approach that was deployed back then by you?
Yes.
In terms of reconciling the whole country, even those that do not believe in you or do not agree with you? I mean, they bought into the idea of, I mean, everybody to come together and be involved in this process.
That's the problem. That's the problem, because we speak about inclusivity. When we were one party, because in Mozambique we did not choose the system of one party or many parties. The dynamics of the liberation struggle made us to be one party. So we were one party. It was a fact. Now, and at that time, everybody was called to say a word. When I say everybody, I mean in the village. I don't say in parliament or so.
In the village.
In the village, you go.
The ordinary man, the ordinary woman.
We're speaking about the engagement.
Yes.
Here, it's for everybody to have a word to say and to understand what the government is up to. in all plans and so on.
That is leadership.
So you discuss about land reform. We did not discuss in the offices or parliament. We discussed in the field
with the people.
With the people. So that was participation. But today, to do this kind of participation, it may be very much difficult. So there's a way of complementing what parliaments do, discuss, and we send commissions of parliament to go and talk with the people, and so on. They come back, and so we are trying to complement the two things: the representative democracy with the participation. So in what concerns the political part of it, but in the economic, one has to be deeper and deeper and deeper, because we have to give chances to everybody.
I think you responded to this at the opening of this session with you. There's a question from Fabrino Atanasik. He didn't indicate the country. Are there clear links of collaboration between former and current presidents? Yeah. And why are the conflicts prevailing within African countries? Why are the conflicts prevailing? Are there links? How can you deepen? How can you strengthen your engagement?
I may say that the collaboration between the former presidents and the current presidents is not much strong. We sometimes are invited to be at the OAU events and so on, and then we are given tasks here and there. But it's very rare to see one current president calling in a former president to have a chat like this. It's not to ask for advice, but to have a chat so that he understands what difficulties the other presidents passes through.
And that's why we are here in terms of experiential leadership.
And it's very rare, especially if it's with the same country. It's a very rare. Well, but this is what should happen. Just to chat, because not to shut the door of the past story, the history and stories of that period, and so you have some starting points. Absolutely, yeah. It's the starting points. It's there. That's when you can criticize what was wrong there and so on, but you have explanation of this and that, of how difficulties were overcome, but not meaning that the difficulties of then will be the difficulties of today. No, there will be new challenges are different. Very different. But you know, when I was a president, I had no cadres. We had one university. Today we have how many? 47 universities and institutions of higher learning. So we have people now. They discuss and there are conferences of intellectuals and so on. I didn't have that. But I and my people, when I say I as president, we created the basis for these schools to come.
The foundation. I mean, that's
you have to, even in the health services, it's a different. Agriculture is different. Today you go fund very modern programs. I don't know of them. But to do that, I worked with a few who existed. I have no bachelor of any agriculture, but I had some people who knew something about agriculture.
That understood the basics.
I would say, well, you tell me how to do this, how to do
and
that.
they got it done.
And okay, how can we do? Send people to learn, because now I know that these needs these people to be studied. This group course, and we developed indicators until we had our own professors at the universities. They were all foreigners. Wow. All professors or lecturers were foreigners. Today, almost all are nationals.
This is great. And one of the objectives of this experiential leadership series, of engaging former leaders like you and even current leaders, is to revisit history. And for historians, for academics, for students, for civil society organizations, for practitioners, to understand the minds of our leaders in Africa, why they took some decisions, why they did not take some decisions, and why it is expected that some current leaders, or even current leaders as a whole, should take some decisions so that they don't miss or take the wrong steps that will impact on the internal stability and regional as well as regional stability. Now I'm going to ask you this. What is your message for an African youth who has lost or is losing hope in the African dream due to bad leadership and weak institutions? What is your message?
All the time I spoke with the youth, particularly the youth at the universities, is that you are here to make the change. When you come to power at any level, don't expect only when you are president, at any level, you must be the factor of change.
At any level.
At the end. Once I said this to students, said, when you come to work, I expect that you behave the way you like the present leaders to behave. Do things that way, which you think is the best. And then I went to visit one of the provinces. At the end of the visit, the first day, a group of civil servants, including directors from hospitals, from schools, and so on, they hosted me in a dinner. And they told me, President, we hosted you in this dinner in order to say thank you very much for what you told us. We realize now that there are real problems. It's not wishful thinking that as president was not doing this because he doesn't have a political will. Things are wrong because that's why they were frustrated, because they don't care about the youth and so on. But you now are the youth. You are well, so it's true what you said. Now we are the youth. We are here. We see that there are things which must be changed, but we cannot change because the circumstances say that. So it's not just because we want things will change. No. So
you must apply yourself to it.
Yeah. So don't desist. You have the idea. Find a chance to put this idea, share with others to move. This is one advice. Second advice, I said some young people want to be leaders. But when we are working in an institution, be it a hotel, be it a railway workshop, or anything, you have many workers together with you. You don't go there and say, I go there because I have studied this and this to become a leader.
Yeah.
You go there with the aim of giving the maximum of yourself to improve the results of the work which you are doing there. And for that, you cannot work isolated. So that you say, I'm working better because I know better than others. No. You call them, you work with them as a team. And then you have the result of the team. And you celebrate the results of the team. And the result is not your result, it's the result of the institution. So you work for this institution to grow. And it's in the process of work that your colleagues will say, oh, this one. They are following you. You find yourself, maybe you don't feel it, but you are being followed. So you are leading. It's not by choice because you choose to lead. Some of those who choose to lead, they get frustrated very quickly.
Yeah.
But those who choose to make the institution, who choose to make the institution succeed, yes. Then they are appreciated by the others. They become the leaders.
So, in essence, there is still hope for the youths in Africa. Yeah,
if they behave the way I'm describing it, to look at their role to accomplishment of the development of the country, or for the development of any institutions in which they are working. If they behave like that, then there's no reason for frustration. Actually, what we will have is progress.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I mean, from what you said, by the way, this series, we're going to be having them in policy briefs where an advisor or a leader will pick a document and say, okay, these are layouts or frameworks that, for instance, President Chissano used. This will be good for us. I mean, so this engagement will be translated into policy briefs for several actors to, to take away from in terms of knowledge, understanding, and practice. In the field. I'm going to ask you this final question, and that is if there are no other questions from the participants. How do we tackle corruption in Africa?
Yeah. Well, there's one thing which
because I know from what I gathered about you, you were very strong about it. You fought corruption when you came into power.
Now, but that's one thing which should not be avoided is to continue the education to people about corruption and the meaning of it, and how corruption is built up.
It's built up.
Yes, it's built up.
Not built down.
You know, how people come and corrupt you. But how can you defend yourselves against corruptors or people who are turning you into a corrupted person? So this a lot of education is necessary. For instance, if one bribes you so that you favor him in a business.
Yes.
So you should think that, well, this bribe is giving to you is taking it from your own state, your own people.
Which impacts on the development of the state.
It's part of his business. Is planned to comprise the thing which will come to him, and then he takes it and he gives you, and you think that, well, he brought it from his countries. So all the tricks and so on, people have to be educated about and to be much aware and alert. Second, what I did, for me, I cannot say that I was the biggest fighter against corruption, but I'm proud that I created the institutions which we didn't have to combat corruption, starting by a developed police, a police who would understand many things, including human rights and so on. We have an academy of police here, which was very difficult to create because even a number of donors did not understand why I wanted to develop the police. And until I gave an academy to police, because I thought that you cannot combat crime without having a good police. Second, it was the judiciary. We didn't have judges. We had people who had finished law school, but very few wanted to become judges. We had to create a school of judges so that we start creating institutions. The institution, we didn't have an attorney general. We didn't have a prosecutor. We didn't have an ombudsman. We had to create all of these things. You cannot combat corruption without all of this. And after creating the minimum part of it, police, some office of the Attorney General, and having some judges, I decided to create an office specifically to combat corruption, which is still working until this day.
Fantastic, Your Excellency.
Institutions.
Institutions. It is not so much about the product, about the police, the judiciary, and several others, this institution. It's not so much about them. It is about the process. Yes. Now you have created the institutions, sustainability, and also to ensure that they are not corrupted along the way. How do we ensure that in African society, that, okay, these institutions are there? Or let's simply say, who polices the police?
Yeah, the people. The people, they have to get mechanisms so that the people may have a word. in this. I learned a word which they speak about a whistleblower.
Whistleblowing policy.
Yeah. So if your people are open, they know that they can go contribute to combat corruption themselves, being individuals. So then it goes. And I used to tell my ministers when I visit the ministries that I found the ministries clean. Saying, don't wait for me to visit in order to clean the ministry. And
they shouldn't wait for you to be present.
Yeah. So the president is going to visit here. Let us put flowers here to be beautiful. I want your ministry to be always beautiful. But it's not only that. I mean cleaning the behavior of each civil servant. So all the smallest part of the department, we call it a section, is led by someone. So this someone must be happy that things are going well in his section. And you go to the department the same until you find the minister himself. And this should go from the base to the top and from the top to the base.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure. We're so honored to have you as the inaugural guest of the Experiential Leadership Series in Africa. We will be engaging more because we're in partnership with your foundation now to see how to bring on board several former leaders and even current leaders. We want to see a situation where even former leaders that have the clout, the convening power, and they are still agile, they are able to contribute the more to policy making and policy decisions, or even the sitting executives for the improvement of the society. And like you said, ensure that there's a wider participation. When there are more people involved in decision making, the less you have of anxieties, tensions, among other things. And there's a lot that we've taken up. That we're taking away from this engagement. I know this is it. It's not enough time to revisit the past and to provide solutions for the future. It's really a pleasure to and honor to be with you, sir, and really appreciate this opportunity. By the way, Your Excellency, you speak how many languages?
No, I don't know.
I'm aware you speak English, you speak French.
No. I speak Shangan.
No, Your Excellency, you are a polyglot.
You started by English.
Okay, I should start by what? Shangan, okay. Shangan, rest. French.
Let me stop there in the local languages. Then Portuguese.
Portuguese, yes, that's two.
Then English.
English, that's three.
Then French.
French, that's four.
I speak enough to be understood. Now,
Russian?
Russian, I forgot. I can remember some words because I never learned Russian. But I spoke because of the 12 months which I stayed there. So, in two occasions. So I cannot get lost in town.
In town, good.
Spanish, by similarity with the Portuguese, and because I had some readings in the university, because the Portuguese didn't have books in Portuguese, so I had to read Spanish. And so I have some understanding of Spanish, and well, Italian is for similarity.
Okay.
Similarity. When they talk, for instance, now if I go to Italy, I will not be able to speak Italian. But if I stay there 1 week, then I start again. Speak. Yeah. On one occasion, they were interviewing me, and I had an interpreter. But the interpreter was not interpreting well because I couldn't understand. So I started talking in Italian.
Wow.
Broken, but I did.
Fantastic.
And then we did like that.
Wow, fantastic. I've counted 7, Your Excellency.
Yeah, so you stop there.
Actually,
because the other, no, there's one sequence is important. I was 11 years in Tanzania. So during the 11 years, I had to speak Swahili. I didn't go to school.
That is 8.
Yeah, to learn Swahili. Swahili, I can talk.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It's really a pleasure and honor to sit with you.
Yoruba, I don't know.
Yoruba again, Your Excellency.
No, I don't know. I just.
Shedadani.
No. I never went to. It's Herero. In the north, it's Herero.
In the north of Nigeria, it's Hausa.
Hausa?
Yeah, Hausa.
Herero is in Namibia. It's a Hausa. Hausa is
Hausa Fulani.
In 1960. So when I had a stop over there, and I went to the market because our plane was delayed. We had to spend 24 hours there, and the following day we had nothing to do, so I went to the market, and that's when I
picked up on.
I heard them talk. I don't remember what they said. Something about Hanakaya. It's where I learned about yam.
Yeah.
Yam. We have yam here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have it here. But I did not know the South. We were not eating it much. I learned in what you call Kano.
In Kano, wow. That's great. 1960. Wow, Your Excellency. It's a pleasure once again. We're ending this session.
Where were you?
No, I wasn't around. Thank you so much to our participants. It's been wonderful engaging with the chairperson of the Forum of Former African Presidents and the heads of government, who is also the former president of the Republic of Mozambique and the chairman of the Joaquim Chissano Foundation. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have you with us. And we're also glad to have the partnership of the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs on this series. We enjoin you to look forward to the next session with a unique guest again. We are pleased to have you, and we look forward to our future engagements together. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure, Excellency. All right, sir. Thank you, sir.